The first strike, the night sky over Dresna was never dark. 2 pale moons hung above the desert world, scattering silver light across endless dunes and jagged obsidian cliffs. The wind howled like a restless animal, carrying the grit of 1,000 years. To the natives, the slender, azure-skinned Drazari, this world was home. To most humans, it was just another outpost on the fringe of alien space. But tonight, the sky was wronged out, an unnatural light rippled across the heavens, brighter than either moon. A deep vibration shook the sand, so strong that even buried stones trembled. Rogan Holt, ex-soldier, now mechanic, sat outside his workshop, wiping oil from his scarred hands. He was human, one of the few on Dresna. His beard was coarse, his knuckles swollen from years of repairing engines that should have been scrap. He preferred machines over politics, but he felt the vibration in his bones and knew at once what it meant. War. The light in the sky grew until the moon seemed like pale candles beside it. Then came the sound thunder that rolled across the horizon. Rogan's tools rattled. The workshop roof groaned. Every instinct from his soldier days screamed at him. Those are warships. From the village below, cries rose. Drazari families stumbled out of their homes, pointing at the sky, whispering prayers to forgotten gods. Children clung to mothers, their luminescent eyes wide. Rogan didn't pray. He swore. Not here. Not again. He grabbed the nearest thing he trusted, a plasma rifle older than himself, and ran toward the ridge above the village. The sand burned his boots, but he didn't slow. He had to see Dot when he crested the ridge. His chest froze. Dozens of black shapes slid through the sky, sharp-edged, predatory, blotting out the moons. Each ship carried the mark of the Kyrix Dominion, an empire of cold-blooded reptilian conquerors. Their fleets had burned through colonies across 3 sectors, enslaving or exterminating whatever they found. The Kyrix hadn't come to negotiate. They'd come to claim. Rogan's mind raced. He'd fought them once, years ago, when humanity barely survived their first encounter. Back then, Earth had sworn neutrality, too battered from internal wars, too scattered to rise again. Rogan had believed them. He'd retired. He'd buried his rifle. But the sky above Dresna said Earth had lied. The Kyrix weren't here by chance. They were hunting humans. Behind him, a soft voice broke his thoughts. Rogan? He turned. Yara stood there, her dark blue skin shimmering in moonlight, her 4-fingered hands trembling. She was Drazari, his closest friend and the only one, who treated him as more than an outcast. Her family's water farm kept half the village alive. They're here for us, she whispered. Aren't they? Rogan wanted to lie. He wanted to tell her it was just another passing fleet, that the Dominion would ignore a desert world with nothing to offer. But the old soldier in him knew better. They're here for me, he said. For humans. Yara's eyes widened. Then why? The answer came before he could give it. From the heart of the Kyrix formation, a bright streak of fire split the night. It wasn't aimed at Rogan. It wasn't aimed at him at all. The plasma lance struck the village. Huts exploded. Like kindling. Sand and stone turned to glass. Screens cut the air. Yara shrieked, sprinting toward the chaos. Rogan grabbed her arm, but she ripped free, racing down the slope to reach her family. The Kyrix fleet didn't stop. More lances fell, raining death upon the Drazari settlement. They weren't after a single human. They were burning everything. Rogan's rifle felt pitiful in his hands. One man against a fleet. One scarred soldier against an empire. He almost dropped it, almost surrendered to despair. But then something else happened. From the far horizon, new lights burst into the sky. White, not red. Sharp, not chaotic. They came in formation, disciplined, purposeful, and Rogan recognized the silhouettes instantly. human warships, not scavenged corvettes, not battered frigates, but a fleet, organized, armored, ready for war. Earth had lied. Humanity had not stayed neutral. Humanity had prepared. The first human salvo streaked across the heavens. Kyrix's vessels lit up like torches. The desert shook again, this time with explosions that carried hope in their thunder. The human fleet had struck first. Rogan's chest burned with a surge of something he hadn't felt in years. Pride. But pride wouldn't save the burning village. He charged down the slope, rifle raised, toward the fire and screams, toward Yara's family, toward the heart of a war that had just begun. The village burns. The first impact nearly tore Rogan off his feet. A plasma lance carved a trench through the sand just ahead, spraying molten shards like a storm of knives. He raised an arm to shield his face, the heat searing his skin, but he didn't stop. He couldn't. Yara was already ahead, her long legs carrying her down the slope faster than his human stride. She leapt fallen beams, dodged fire, screaming her family's names. "Yara, wait!" Rogan roared, but his voice was swallowed by chaos. The village was gone. Not in ruins, not yet, but unraveling before his eyes. Mud brick huts crumbled as if kicked by giants. The community well exploded into steam. Drazari civilians fled in. Every direction, their cries high and shrill, hands clutching children or half-burned belongings. Overhead, human and Kyrix warships tore into each other. White lances from human destroyers slammed into the reptilian craft, ripping open hulls that burned like green fireflies as they fell. Kyrix counterfire rained down indiscriminately. One beam struck the cliffs behind Rogan, showering the desert in boulders that crushed entire clusters of homes. It wasn't a battle. It was a storm. Rogan reached the first row of shattered huts. The air stank of ozone and charred flesh. He gagged but kept moving. His rifle thrummed to life with a blue glow as he scanned for threats. Kyrix weren't just bombing. They were deploying ground troops. A shriek cut through the smoke. Rogan pivoted. Out of the haze came a Kyrix soldier. Twice Rogan's height, armored in black plates that shimmered with scaled patterns, its snout dripping saliva. It carried a plasma glaive, its blade glowing red-hot. The creature spotted him. A hiss escaped its throat. Then it charged. Rogan steadied. His rifle aimed for the throat joint where armor met flesh and fired. The plasma bolt sizzled through the air, slamming into the beast. It staggered but didn't fall. Its hiss turned to a roar. "Damn it," Rogan spat, firing again. This time, the bolt struck the creature's open maw. The Kyrix's head snapped back, a spray of green ichor splattering the sand. It collapsed, twitching. Rogan lowered the rifle, chest heaving. His hands shook, not from fear, but from rage. The Kyrix weren't here to conquer slowly. They were here to eradicate. "Yara!" He shouted, sprinting again. He found her near. The ruins of her family's water farm. The long irrigation towers lay twisted and burning, their precious water oiling away into the sky. Yara was on her knees, pulling at a collapsed beam with desperate strength. Beneath it, her younger brothers. Pale hand clawed weakly at the sand. "Help me," she cried, voice breaking. Rogan dropped his rifle, grabbed the beam, and heaved. His back screamed. Old scars tore open. The beam shifted an inch, then another. "Push." He yelled. Together, human and Drazari forced the beam aside. Rogan reached in, dragging the boy out. His chest was burned, his breathing shallow, but he lived. Yara cradled her brother, sobbing. Thank you," Rogan cut her off, eyes darting skyward. "We're not safe yet." More Kyrix were dropping from orbit. Their troop ships screamed like falling stars, slamming into the sand beyond the village. Hatches burst open. disgorging squads of scaled warriors. One of the transports landed so close the shockwave threw Rogan and Yara to the ground. Sand poured over them like water. Asterisk through the haze. Rogan saw a sight that turned his blood to ice. The Kyriks weren't just here for slaughter. They had machines. From the transport stalked a war mech, four-legged, bristling with plasma cannons, each step leaving glassed footprints in the sand. Its sensors swept across the burning village like a predator sniffing prey. The human fleet was winning in the sky. Rogan could see Kyriks' hulls burning and breaking apart. But down here, on the ground, the Dominion's fury was unrelenting. Rogan, Yara whispered, clutching her brother. We can't fight that. He didn't answer. He knew she was right. One rifle wouldn't stop a Kyriks. War-Met. But his eyes locked on something glinting amid the ruins of his workshop. The half-buried husk of an engine core he'd been repairing for weeks. Not a weapon, not yet, but maybe. Just maybe. A plan sparked in his mind. Insane, desperate, human. He grabbed Yara's arm. We can fight it, but we'll need bait. Before she could argue, the mech turned toward them. Its cannons began to charge, glowing with death. Rogan shoved Yara and her brother behind the wreckage of a wall, lifted his rifle, and screamed into the smoke. Come on then, you bastard. Come for me. A war mech swiveled, targeting him. Its cannons fired. The desert lit up like a newborn star. Asterisk. Fire and fury. The world exploded. Rogan dove as plasma blasts tore through the sand where he had stood. The shockwave flung him across the street, smashing him into the side of a collapsed hut. His ears rang, his skin blistered from the heat, but he was alive. The mech's cannons raked the village, pulverizing walls, melting stone, setting what little remained ablaze. Drazari civilians scattered like frightened birds. Some were cut down mid-run, their bodies outlined in fire. Rogan forced himself upright. His vision swam, but through the haze he saw it. The mech lumbering forward, its sensor eyes glowing red, locked onto him. Perfect. Asterisk. He staggered toward the ruins of his workshop. Each step felt like wading through fire. His boots smoked. His rifle clattered against his chest. Behind him, Yara screamed his name, but he didn't turn. If he turned, if he faltered, they'd all die. He reached the broken frame of the workshop. Inside, amid overturned tools and shattered glass, lay the half-repaired engine core. A fusion starter from an old hauler never meant to be a weapon. But Rogan had once been a combat engineer. He knew what too much energy, contained too poorly, could do. He dropped to his knees, hands flying over the exposed panels. Wires sparked, circuits hissed, but he ignored the burns. He could almost hear his old commander's voice. If it can spark, soldier, it can glow. The ground trembled. The mech was close now. He heard its claws gouging the sand, the whine of its charging cannons. He had seconds. Come on, you bastard, Rogan muttered, rerouting the power lines. Overload for me. Just once. The engine whined. Lights flickered. A rising hum shook the air. Rogan gritted his teeth, slammed the last conduit into place, and rolled away. The mech rounded the corner, towering above the workshop. Its cannons locked onto the glowing core inside. Its sensors read the unstable energy signature as a threat, and it fired. The plasma bolts struck the engine. For a heartbeat, nothing. Then the desert split open. A blinding white sphere engulfed the workshop, swallowing the mech whole. The explosion roared like thunder, tearing the world apart. Sand turned to glass. Buildings collapsed in the shockwave. The mech screamed in metallic agony as its armor melted, its legs buckling before it collapsed into the inferno. Rogan was thrown hard onto his back. The breath was ripped from his lungs, his ears filled with nothing but roaring silence. When he opened his eyes, the mech was gone. Nothing remained but twisted shards glowing red-hot. He laughed hoarse, broken, disbelieving. He had done it then. Yara was there, dragging him by the arm, her eyes wild with terror. "You idiot, you insane, stubborn human. You could have killed us all." Rogan spat blood, coughed, and managed a grin. "But I didn't." Before Yara could answer, a new sound cut through the chaos. A deep, resonant horn. Not from the Kyriks. Not from the human fleet. Rogan and Yara both froze. From the northern horizon, shapes emerged. Sleek, angular ships descending through the smoke neither human nor Kyriks design. Their hulls shimmered with bronze light, their engines whispering. Instead of roaring, the Drizari dropped to their knees in awe, voices trembling with a single word. "Wardens." Rogan frowned. "Who the hell are the Wardens?" Yara's voice shook. "The ones who swore to protect us. The ones who abandoned us centuries ago." The bronze ships landed outside the burning village. From their ramps strode towering figures tall, armored in robes of shimmering gold, faces hidden by masks of light. They moved with deliberate calm, unaffected by the fire and blood around them. The Kyriks warbands, seeing them, actually hesitated. Some drew back. Others hissed in challenge. The lead warden raised a hand. A wave of invisible force swept across the battlefield, extinguishing fires, silencing screams, even freezing plasma bolts in mid-air. Then the figure spoke, its voice deep and terrible, echoing inside every skull. "This world is under warden protection. All who trespass will face judgment." The Kyriks roared in fury, their warbands charging. The wardens answered by raising their hands. From their palms, golden fire erupted, sweeping across the Kyriks' lines like a living storm. Reptilian soldiers screamed, incinerated where they stood. Yara clutched her brother tight, eyes wide with both awe and fear. They're saving us." Rogan, still sprawled in the sand, didn't share her awe. He studied the golden figures, their perfect control, their cold precision. His gut twisted. They weren't saving them. They were making a statement. The human fleet still fought overhead. The wardens now burned the ground below. The Kyriks were being crushed between them. And Rogan realized, with a sick certainty, that Dresna wasn't the battleground. It was the message. The war had only just begun. Asterisk, the warden's judgment. The battlefield lay in silence. Kyriks' corpses smoldered. In the sand, their armor melted to slag. The human fleet's guns went quiet overhead. Even the fire in the village guttered, snuffed out by invisible force. The wardens stood tall among the ruins' golden giants, robes untouched by ash, masks, gleaming in the moonlight. They looked less like soldiers and more like gods. But Rogan didn't trust gods. He pushed himself to his feet, ribs screaming in protest. The Drizari villagers fell to their knees, foreheads pressed to the sand. Yara hesitated, torn between reverence and the instinct to stay near him. The lead warden stepped forward. Its voice rolled across the survivors like thunder. "The Kyriks' dominion has violated the covenant. They will be purged. This world will be restored to balance." The Drizari wept with relief. Some shouted praises. But Rogan's jaw clenched. Restored to balance? The village was ash. Families lay dead. What balance was left to restore? He spat into the sand. "You're late." Every head snapped toward him. Yara hissed under her breath. "Rogan, don't." But the wardens masked. Face turned. "You are human." Rogan felt his stomach knot. The weight of that voice pressed down on him like gravity. Still, he straightened his back. "Yeah, what of it?" For a long, terrible moment, the golden mask just stared. Then the warden spoke. "You were not meant to be here." The words hit like a hammer. The villagers gasped. Yara clutched his arm, eyes wide with panic. Rogan barked a bitter laugh. Tell that to the Kyrics. They didn't seem to care about where I was meant to be. The warden ignored the sarcasm. Its gaze turned skyward, where the human fleet now loomed in silent orbit. Your kind moves too quickly, too recklessly. The Covenant forbade your expansion for this reason. And yet, here you are. Rogan's blood boiled. He wasn't a politician, but he knew damn well what that meant. The wardens hadn't just abandoned the Drazari. They'd forbidden humanity from helping them, and humanity had disobeyed. Another warden descended from the ramp, carrying a Kyrix prisoner bound in golden chains. The reptilian warrior hissed and writhed, but the chains held like iron. The lead warden raised its hand. Witness judgment. The prisoner screamed once before golden fire consumed it. In seconds, nothing remained but ash drifting on the wind. The Drazari bowed lower, whispering thanks. But Rogan's stomach twisted. That wasn't justice. That was Theater Dot. He leaned toward Yara, voice low. They're not here for you. They're here to scare us. Yara shook her head, trembling. No, they swore to protect. They swore to control. Rogan snapped Dot above them. The human fleet finally moved. A channel of light streaked down through orbit, projecting a figure in shimmering blue. An admiral in Earth's uniform stern-faced, shoulders squared. Wardens. The admiral's voice rang, cold but steady. This is Admiral Kincaid of the Terran Fleet. By what authority do you intervene in human defense operations? The lead warden tilted its mask. By the Covenant. Authority older than your species. You should not be here. Asterisk, the admiral didn't flinch. And yet we are. Humanity does not bow. The word struck the crowd like a spark in dry grass. Rogan felt his heart pound. Finally, someone was saying it out loud. The warden's voice deepened. Then humanity has chosen war, not only with the Kyrics, but with us. A silence heavier than death fell over the desert. Rogan's throat went dry. War with the Kyrics was suicide enough. War with the wardens, who could burn armies. With the gesture was madness, but Admiral Kincaid's voice didn't waver. So be it. If war is the price of freedom, humanity will pay it. The hologram vanished. The fleet above shifted formation, weapons powering. The sky hummed with the threat of violence. Yara clutched Rogan's arm. They'll destroy us all. Humans, Kyrics, Drazari, everyone. Rogan couldn't answer. His mind was racing. He'd seen hopeless wars before. He'd buried friends, burned with them, starved with them. But he also knew something neither the Kyrics nor the Wardens seemed to understand. Humans didn't fight clean wars. They fought dirty, desperate. They survived when no one else could. And maybe, just maybe, that was the one thing that could save them now. The Wardens raised their hands again, golden fire crackling in the air. The human fleet answered, guns spooling up, engines howling. Rogan realized he was standing at the crossroads of history. In whichever way it went, humanity would never be the same. Asterisk. The ashes of Dresnath's sky ripped open. Human warships and warden. Cruisers exchanged fire, their weapons turning the heavens into a storm of light. The Kyric survivors scattered like insects, retreating to their transports. This battle was no longer theirs. It was humanity against the so-called guardians of the galaxy. On the ground, the shock waves hit first rolling walls of heat and pressure that flattened what little remained of the village. Rogan grabbed Yara and her brother, dragging them into the shattered husk of a water tower, just as the desert outside turned to glass. The boy whimpered. Yara held him close, eyes shining with fear. Rogan pressed his back against the steel wall. Gritting his teeth as the tower groaned out above, a human destroyer exploded. Shards of burning metal rained down, sizzling in the sand. A warden ship followed, cleaved in half by a human railgun slug. It wasn't a battle anymore. It was a massacre on both sides. Rogan forced himself up. We can't stay here. This place is dead. Yara shook her head, clutching her brother tighter. Where do we go? The desert stretches for weeks in every direction. He checked the horizon. Beyond the dunes, faint. Against the moons, a line of jagged peaks cut the sky. Mount Koresh, there are caves, shelter, and food, water. Rogan met her gaze. His eyes were hard. I'll figure it out. But if we stay here, we're ash. Yara hesitated only. A moment before nodding that, they slipped out of the wreckage, moving through smoke and falling debris. Rogan led the way, rifle ready, every muscle tight with the expectation of death. But the battlefield wasn't empty. They passed Drazari survivors, burned, broken, some missing limbs. Rogan's gut twisted as Yara stopped again and again to help them, even when he urged her to move faster. She wouldn't leave her people behind. By the time they reached the edge of the village ruins, a dozen terrified civilians followed in their wake. Rogan swore under his breath. He wasn't leading just Yara anymore. He was leading all of them. The climb into the dunes was brutal. Sandstorms whipped against their faces, carrying the taste of iron and smoke. Above, streaks of fire cut the sky as ships died by the dozens. Hours passed. The survivors staggered, children crying, elders collapsing. Rogan pushed them onward, half carrying those who fell. His body screamed with exhaustion, but he refused to stop. Finally, as the first light of dawn bled across the desert, they reached the base of Mount Koresh. Dark cave mouths yawned above like open wounds. The refugees stumbled inside, collapsing against the cool stone. Rogan and Yara set down the boy, who had finally fallen into uneasy sleep. For a moment, silence, then Rogan's knees gave out. He sat against the wall, head in his hands. His body trembled, not from fear, but from rage. Rage at the Kyrex, rage at the wardens, rage at Earth for dragging them into this without warning. Yara sat beside him, touching his arm gently. You saved us. Rogan laughed bitterly. For now. But the war's only started. And the wardens, they won't stop. She studied him with those luminous eyes. Then what do we do? Before he could answer, a sound echoed deeper in the cave. A mechanical hum, faint but distinct. Rogan froze. Slowly, he raised his rifle, signaling the others to stay quiet. He crept forward, following the sound. Around a bend in the rock, his breath caught. There, hidden in the shadows, was a ship. Not Kyrex, not warden, not even human. A small, sleek craft, half buried in sand and stone, as if it had been hidden for centuries. Its hull shimmered with strange symbols that shifted when he tried to focus on them, and standing beside it was a figure slender, pale, with eyes like burning silver. It smiled at him. I was wondering when humanity would arrive. Rogan's finger tightened on the trigger. Who the hell are you? A figure tilted its head. A friend or an enemy? That depends on whether you want to win this war. Behind Rogan, Yara's voice trembled. Rogan, that's not possible. That's a seer. Rogan didn't take his eyes off the stranger. What's a seer? Yara's grip tightened on his arm. The ones the wardens destroyed, the ones who defied them. The silver-eyed figure stepped closer, unfazed by the rifle aimed at its chest. The wardens burn civilizations that grow. Too bold, the Kyrex serve as their hounds. Humanity is next. Unless you do the unthinkable. Rogan's voice was a low growl. And what's that? The seer's smile widened. Strike first. Asterisk the seer's truth. The cave walls seemed to close in, As the seer's silver eyes bore into Rogan's, the survivors behind him whispered in fear, clutching their children, as though the pale figure radiated both hope and terror. Rogan kept his. Rifle trained. Talk. Fast. The seer placed a hand on the strange ship's hull. Symbols rippled beneath its touch, glowing faintly. The wardens are not protectors. They are jailers. Every species that rises too far, too fast, they strike down. They call it balance. We called it slavery. Yara's voice shook. That's why they destroyed your people. The seer nodded. We seers built cities that touched the stars, machines that bent reality. The wardens judged us dangerous. They unleashed the Kyrics to break us, then finished what was left with golden fire. Rogan's chest tightened. He thought of Earth, of the fleet above Dresna, of Admiral Kincaid standing tall against impossible. Odds? Could that be humanity's future? A people rising just enough to be noticed, only to be crushed? He lowered the rifle slightly. Why tell me this? Why now? The seer smiled faintly. Because humanity has done what no other dared. You struck first. The wardens didn't expect that. You terrify them. Rogan almost laughed. Terrify? We're outgunned, outnumbered, unpredictable, the seer interrupted. That is what terrifies them. They cannot calculate you. They cannot cage you. That is why I hid this. He gestured to the ship. This craft carries what remains of seer knowledge. Weapons the wardens fear. Tools to fight them. But I cannot use it. I am hunted. Broken. My kind is gone. Yours is not. The silence in the cave was heavy. The refugees stared, wide-eyed. Yara stepped forward cautiously, her brother clinging to her hand. Asterisk? You're saying humans must finish what the seers began, she whispered. The seer inclined its head. Or be erased as we were. Rogan's stomach churned. He didn't want this. He was a mechanic, a soldier only because war had once dragged him in. He wanted quiet, not destiny. But he remembered the village burning, Yara's family crushed, children screaming, and he remembered the Admiral's words, humanity does not bow. Rogan lowered his rifle. Show me. The seer's smile widened. With a gesture, the ship's hull parted like water. Inside, a soft blue glow illuminated a chamber filled with devices unlike anything Rogan had seen. Crystalline engines, weapon pods humming with energy, data cores filled with alien light. This ship is only a seed, the seer said. But, in human hands, it could become a fleet. A fleet not of submission, but of freedom. Rogan stepped inside, his boots echoing on metal, older than the village outside. He touched one of the glowing cores. It pulsed beneath his fingers, alive. For the first time, he felt not just the weight of survival, but of choice. Behind him, Yara called softly, Rogan, if you take this, there's no going back. He turned to her. Her eyes, luminous in the glow, held fear and trust in equal measure. I know, he said. Before she could answer, the cave shook violently. Dust rained from the ceiling. Screams echoed from the refugees. Rogan spun. The seer's eyes flashed. They've found us. Outside, the roar of engines grew. The wardens had tracked the hidden ship. Their golden fire was coming. The seer's voice was calm, almost serene. Decide, human. Hide with the Drazari and die. Or fly with me and make your species feared. Rogan gritted his teeth, heart hammering. He had seconds. He could leave the villagers and save only himself, taking the seer's ship to fight another day. Or he could try the impossible fit they, refugees inside, risk exposure, and maybe doom them all. Yara's hand found his, trembling. Whatever you choose, she whispered. Choose it for more than war. The ground cracked. Light seared the cave mouth as warden fire poured in. Rogan made his choice. Asterisk. The human choice, the cave mouth split apart in golden fire. The air turned molten, stone walls glowing red. Refugees screamed and huddled together as the wardens advanced. Their masks burning like suns in the dark, Rogan stood frozen for only a heartbeat. Then instinct took over. He grabbed Yara's hand, then shouted at the others. "Inside, all of you, move!" The seer's silver eyes widened. "You would burden the ship with civilians? Madness! You cannot fight the wardens with asterisk. Shut up," Rogan barked. "This isn't about fighting, not yet. This is about living." He shoved Yara and her brother toward the ship's glowing ramp. One by one, a terrified Drezari obeyed, stumbling into the strange vessel. The seer shook its head in disbelief, but began guiding them inside, murmuring alien commands that reshaped the interior seats and compartments, blooming out of the walls to hold the refugees. The ground shook again. A warden stepped into the cave, its golden fire burning away the shadows. "Human," it intoned, voice echoing like a judgment bell. "You defy the covenant. Release the relic, and your death will be swift." Rogan raised his battered rifle. The weapon looked pitiful against the living god before him, but he bared his teeth in a grin. "Sorry, not my style." The warden raised its hand. Golden fire surged. Rogan dove into the ship. The ramp sealed, shut just as the fire struck. The hull rippled like water, bending but not breaking. Inside, the lights flared. The ship roared to life. The seer's voice rang out, "Brace yourselves." Then the vessel launched. It burst through stone and sand, tearing free of Mount Koresh in a storm of fire. Refugees screamed, clinging to their seats. Rogan gritted his teeth as gravity crushed him into the deck, and then they were in the sky. Asterisk, the battle still raged above. Human destroyers burned, warden cruisers shattered, Kyrix scavengers fled in all directions. But every eye turned as a new starship, sleek and terrible, streaked upward from the surface. Alarms blared across the warden fleet. Their weapons swiveled toward the unknown vessel. Asterisk. On the bridge, Rogan staggered upright. The seer stood at the controls, hands weaving through glowing symbols. "The ship can shield you, but weapons." "Show me." Rogan growled. The seer gestured. Panels lit up. Energy pods hummed like beating hearts. "Strike at their engines. It will not destroy them, but it will cripple." Rogan slammed his hand onto the controls. The ship answered like it had been waiting for him. Beams of blue light erupted from its sides, lancing across the void. A warden cruiser shuddered, one of its engines bursting into golden fire. Another beam carved across a weapons array, silencing it. The wardens faltered for the first time. Cheers erupted from the refugees. Even Yara, clutching her brother, managed a tearful smile, but the seer's face was grim. "We cannot stay. More will come. Stronger." Rogan nodded, sweat streaming down his face. His hands clenched the controls, heart pounding. "Then we. Make them remember this. Humanity doesn't bow. Not to Kyrix, not to wardens, not to anyone." He turned the ship toward the battlefield. Admiral Kincaid's fleet was faltering, surrounded. But now they had a weapon the wardens had never expected. The seer looked at him with something like awe. "You chose mercy. And still you choose war." Rogan's eyes burned with fierce light. Not war, freedom. The ship Dove blew, fire blazing, cutting a path through the storm. Human ships rallied to its side, roaring back to life. For the first time in centuries, the wardens reeled. And in that moment, across desert and sky, across fleets and worlds, a message spread. Humanity had struck first, and the galaxy would never forget its wrath. Epilogue days later, deep in the void, The survivors huddled within the alien craft. Refugees whispered prayers. Children slept at last, and Yara sat beside Rogan, her hand resting gently on his scarred one. The seer approached. "You've made enemies beyond counting. The wardens will never stop hunting you." Rogan stared into the stars. "Good. Let them come." His voice was quiet, but iron. "Because this time, we'll be ready."